Well, Mike, thanks for your time. The expectations for LSU, if it was a grade like a class, A, B, C, D, or F, what is the expectation level?
Man, I think most realistic LSU fans around here think, 9-3 with a 10-win possibility in the bowl is realistic. I've tried to temper some of the LSU fans' enthusiasm that you've got a lot of the same personnel problems on defense that you had last year. I think they are going to be improved, but just because you're excited about a new defensive coordinator and all new coaches on that side of the ball, and there's some great coaches there, you're still missing some key gems and Joes. D-line, defensive back play. Of course, you lost what you lost on offense. The offense should still be prolific. But, if people are looking at Vegas and Vegas saying LSU's going to be favored in every game but one, and they automatically want to correlate that to being 10-2 or 11-1. And, look, anything can happen. Luckily for LSU at this point, knock on wood, they've avoided catastrophic injuries in fall camp. And they've been real diligent and smart out there with being smart with the heat out there and getting the kids acclimated. But, on one hand, and I've told you guys before, in the spring, to me, with the deficiencies on the D-line and elsewhere, in normal years, I think this could be is an 8-4 football team. But when I look at the schedule, and it's probably the most favorable LSU football schedule I've seen in 30 years, you get past USC in the opener, and you could really be on your way if you avoid any major injuries, and certainly that includes Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback. I wouldn't want to go into November without him.
Mike, you mentioned the Johnnies and Joes that they've got to get there on the defensive side of the ball. What do you think was they were, through multiple coaches, never really lost defensive talent. What did Brian Kelly do differently that allowed them to kind of fall behind there, or is that just kind of the modern era and transfer portal hit them?
I think it's been a perfect storm or an imperfect storm from Brian Kelly's point of view. It's been a combination of the defensive tackle spot having so many years in a row with new coaches there, some bad luck. The state of Louisiana, for whatever reason, has had a stretch of not producing a significant number of defensive tackles. And it's a premium position. And so to me, that's a big part of it. And honestly, you can point the fingers at maybe some player personnel people that were on the staff a couple of years ago if you want to. But the offensive position recruiting is off the charts. But the defensive recruiting, particularly defensive line, edge rush, there's been some issues there. And while they've had great success with transfer portal guys over the years, there's also been some guys that didn't give you what you needed. So it could be boom or bust. But with what they're doing in recruiting now, and with this new staff, the class of 2025 with 20 commits right now, and what they've got on the hook and how they're looking for 26, I think that all that's about to get rectified. And then who knows what this 105 roster limit is. It can really help a team like LSU that needs to catch up in a hurry, get it done.
Mike, I was listening earlier to Joe Sloan talk, and he mentioned the creativity that he's seen out of this running back group. What are your thoughts on this unit as a whole, and how can they make some progressions this year? And I know they're going to need to run the ball a lot more with Garrett Nussmeier not being mobile the way Jaden Daniels was, but what is your expectation for this group, and what do you think he truly means about being creative with them?
Well, I think, first of all, they want to increase their time of possession. They want the defense to have time to gel, keep them off the field, give them a rest. You're not very deep on the interior defensive line, and certainly you want to get an edge rush for those corners to have a little bit easier time. But so you want to run the football, You don't have Malik Neighbors, but you have a lot of very, very talented, and they're deep at wide receiver. We'll see if they, have anything close to a 1-2 punch of Neighbors and Brian Thomas. But there's some highly talented guys there, and they did very well in the transfer portal at the wide receiver spot. I think the tight ends, Mason Taylor is going to have a bigger year, so I think they're going to be utilized more. I think they're going to throw to the running backs a bit more. And Caleb Jackson, who was a true freshman last year, and I asked Sloan that question yesterday, he got hurt on the first quarter of his first game of his senior year. I was there when it happened. This all of his senior year, he wasn't a midterm grad, but you're talking about a 230-pound, 235-pound running back that can run a 10-400 meters. And you want to say a little bit of Leonard Fournette combined with somebody else. He's that type of kid. I think the only thing that maybe would prevent him from being a featured every down back is how well he's grasping the offense, blocking assignments, catching the ball out of the backfield in the little things, because there's no doubt about it. He can take it the distance. He can run over a linebacker. He's just a load. And then you got the talented freshman Caden Durham, who's also there.
Yep.
You got John Henry to come back out of the portal. He's shown some nice flashes. I mean, it's pretty much saying something when a guy who you might be saying is your third or fourth running back is John Emery, who was a 5-star running back out of high school.
And we saw Durham when he was a younger player, Duncanville High School. Right. We saw him against Midway, and it was, and of course, Duncanville had everything you'd ever want in any team. And then Durham went off even in that game. Josh Williams, he's never had more than, 90-something carries in a season. So for the most part, it's a younger group, right, as far as experience and productivity. Is that a concern entering the season?
No, I don't think it is. It's just, what a story Josh Williams is. He could have went to the University of Houston and a few others. He wanted to walk on at LSU, earned a scholarship. If you saw him in street clothes, you would say, no way, that's the guy that I see laying vicious blocks on edge rushers that are probably outweighing him by 30 pounds or more. He's just been Mr. Steady, and he's very good at catching the ball out of the backfield. But if you can get Caleb Jackson to be as precise as him on everything in the offense, then you're really cooking in grease.
Mike, I know there's been a lot of talk and a lot of attention paid to Trey'Dez Green throughout this. And I know Mac hitting, I don't know if he's going to hit the portal or not, but how do you see them truly using Trey'Dez Green? Because I know Pimpton has emerged as well in that tight end room along with Mason Taylor.
Yeah, I think Markway walking away, and we're pretty safe to say he's going to get in the portal at some point. I think he just sees in this offense where a tight end who's a little bit of a throwback like him, more of a blocker. I think when we see what Joe Sloan does with the offense this fall, it might really tell a bigger part of the story as to why he's going to leave LSU. But, I think if they want to go large in the red zone, you can go ahead and bring in another offensive lineman if you need to. But and they've got some athletic ones. So, I think Mason Taylor and Trey'Dez Green you can line him up as a receiver. He can stretch the field. He's just a huge target. And then you got the Kamorian Pimpton from Texas, who looks like a world beater. Saw a little bit of him last year, and he's made some fantastic catches. So you're talking about a couple of guys there that are 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". It's crazy the height and athleticism that they got at tight end.
Garrett Ross with a third question for Mike Scarborough. I wonder which favorite team he is, huh?
No telling. No, Mike, the last thing I have for you, you mentioned the defensive line and how they're working there and guys are trying to come into their own, but what have you seen from Savion Jones really with his battles with Emory Jones early on in this camp? What are his expectations this year?
I know there's some video of him out there, getting winning some reps, and if that's a case of what we're about to see throughout the season, that'll be fantastic. I wonder if you totaled up 40 reps between the two of them, how many Savion wins against Emory Jones. But I mean, he's the guy that I had rated higher than Mason Smith that year coming in Louisiana. I had them both as 5 stars, but I gave Savion the edge. He was my number 1. So it was like 1A and 1B. But he's got the body. He's got the looks. You know, you can argue maybe was he a little bit too heavy last year, but they've got to get some rush off the edge, whether it's him, Parrish, Shan, maybe some big things down the line from Relaford, the freshman. But they've got to figure out something there. And then Swinson and Womack, you know, I said in my report yesterday, it's like they've got to get some pass rush from somewhere. I don't know that it's going to come up the middle or not. They've got to get something off the edge, and we'll see who it is.
What I mean, isn't Perkins enough if they just let him go?
Well, you know, they want him to develop and be a true linebacker. You know, certainly I think there's going to be some unique things that they want to do with blitzes and trying to bring pressure from different places and try to be confusing. But if Harold Perkins wants to be a top draft pick at the next level, he needs to be a guy who's more than just a rush specialist, and that's his goal. I mean, he wants to be a true linebacker and be an every down guy.
All right, I know that the transfer portal is a huge deal now to help fill gaps or even get better at certain places, but the Alphas still, Blue Bloods, they still dominate when it comes to high school recruiting, and it looks like LSU's having a pretty good run. I know that there's still a long way to go, but does it appear as that Brian Kelly and company have put together a great class?
It is. I really like what they're doing. I think that they've got the portal, NIL, collective stuff really dialed in and figured out. There were some times maybe a year or so ago where I thought maybe, you know, for some guys, if you want to call them high dollar guys, that maybe that they could get priced out of. I'm not seeing anything like that. I think they're in line with everybody in their peer group. A lot of weapons in this class, 20 commitments as of today, and 26 is looking darn strong. And Louisiana for 26 and 27 are looking darn good. So they just need to get, you know, to me, in where they've got some deficiencies, there's safety in numbers. Keep getting those 3-star and 4-star defensive linemen you're going to hit on, because more often than not in LSU's history, it's the 3- and 4-star defensive linemen that pan out over the 5-star guys. Most of the 5-star defensive linemen that LSU signed in the last 25 years have not panned out. It's the Benny Logans and the Michael Brockers that you know, either Les Miles had to be talked into, or you go to Houston and get Brockers, and you know the Texas schools weren't even really looking at him, and those are the guys who end up being the studs.
Mike, thank you. Appreciate it very much for being a part of the show. Such a great job covering LSU. TigerBait.com. Mike Scarborough with us on 365 Sports.